morning, everyone, and welcome to Conquer the Clutter this, what is it, 24th of August. How the summer has flown by. We will look back on these days, regardless of how hot, regardless of how much rain, when it's January and we're knee deep in snow. We will look back on them fondly. I hope everybody's having a great summer. And I hope that this podcast adds to it. And I've got some exciting news, very exciting news. So first of all, I just want to say that the topic today is the last segment about focus and how we're able to strengthen what we have identified as our best path to focus, and the other parts that we've talked about focus as well. So over the past 2 or 3 podcasts, we have talked about nothing else but focus, all right? We've talked about different types of focus. We've talked about how to develop and hold on to our focus. So today we're going to focus specifically on, okay, once we know what it is, once we know how to get a hold of it, once we know how to kind of get good at increasing it so that it's secure for us, now how do we make it strong enough so that it's enough, that focus is enough of a resource for the challenges that are going to be part of meeting the goals we most want in life. We don't want to run out of focus when we need it most. We want to know how to draw on it and hold on to it and make it work for us. And as I said a minute ago, we also have some very exciting news, Hafs and I. So September, this is not the happy news, but September, the whole month of September is going to be the topic for podcast, grief and loss, all right? And I've done research on who are the best reviewed authors on grief and loss. And since grief and loss is something I also treat, but I'm not an expert in, I'm going to draw heavily on one of the authors that I chose because I love her irreverent attitude to our experience with grief and loss and our entitlement to it, rather than it's some kind of pathological disorder that has to be medicalized, if that's even a word. Her name is Megan Devine, and these are the 2 books that I'm going to work from. Now, I did contact Megan to ask if she could be a guest, but she's not available. So we're going to carry on. And as I say, I'm going to be adding, as I do normally, my clinical experience as it relates to our life, but also hoarding or clutter, wherever you are on that spectrum. And then here's the big news. As part of grief and loss, in addition, on the 21st of September, Sean Leonard has agreed to be a guest on our podcast. All right. So if you haven't heard of Sean Leonard, go on Google and look him up. All right. Now, it needs to be said that even though Sean Leonard is a well-known TV personality, similar to Teresa Caputo, with his own TV show on the Aboriginal People's Network, television network, all right, which is a particular station, I guess, and he has clearly and authentically, all right, I wouldn't bring him to you if I didn't have 100% confidence in his authenticity. He has clearly and authentically been given a very, very special gift in his life. And that is the gift of being a true, authentic, responsible medium. All right. He's not trying to pitch anything. He's not trying to sell you on anything. And I have to say too, I have a great deal of respect for the work he does. And I particularly like him because at the same time as being a very famous TV personality, he's humble and he's kind. All right. And he's authentic. He is not a showman. He's a real human being with a very rare gift, and he's willing to share some of the experience of being a medium that he's been given for whatever positive, healthy use you can make of it. Now, he is not going to be reading anyone. It's not that aspect of his gift that he's going to share. That would be irresponsible, I think. All right. So what he's going to do instead during the podcast is very graciously accept to come and talk to us about the timeline between life and death. All right. And that really in being a timeline, it's part of our life experience as well. We are on a time continuum. And whether that's what side of the time continuum you're on, this life that we experience physically, or in the spirit world, it's really just an extension of our life timeline. All right. My sincerest hope, the reason I am absolutely thrilled that he is going to make time for us, is because my hope is that in realizing that life is, in fact, no matter which side of the equation you're on, all right, life really is a timeline, not as much of a loss as the way we conventionally think of it. And I'm hoping that he and I together will bring those of you who are struggling with unresolved grief, which has to be the most destructive emotion known to man. All right. And it plays out in so many negative, destructive ways. I'm hoping that it can be, I'll just go back to my thought. We'll be bringing those of you who are struggling with unresolved grief, and that can be a long time ago, like historical, that we hold on to it, or it can be that your grief is recent and vivid. All right. That hearing what he has to say through his very unique experience, and again, through a very rare gift that he truly has, hearing from him will bring you peace and perspective. All right. And that peace and perspective is that something you don't have right now. And you can't be expected to have it while you're stuck in the experience of the grief that you've experienced. And my hope is that you'll be able to use that peace and perspective, all right, to help you resolve the abundance of items that you may be holding on to for some symbolic or sentimental attachment reasons. All right. You can change your relationship to those items. All right. And you can have a healthier perspective about them for your life today, moving forward. And I'm hoping that he will be able, through joining us, to help you realize where you're stuck, and that stuck is a choice. You don't have to be. All right. Okay. It's not my intention. I want to be really clear about this. It is not my intention to challenge anyone's religious or spiritual beliefs, or even your personal perspective about whether the gift of being a medium is a true thing or not. I know, though, that if you go on the Aboriginal People's Television Network and you look up his TV show, which will be continuing this fall as well, I know that you can make your own mind up, witnessing the exchanges he has, the kind and compassionate, responsible, humble exchanges he has with people about the truth of his gift. Okay, so now on to today's topic. Okay, so we've done a lot of talk about focus. Let's make a deliberate effort today to remain proactive rather than reactive. all right, about our focus, because these compelling messages that come to our mind to distract us are so many and so powerful that it can be really extremely difficult. If we give them focus, it can make it a whole lot easier, okay? Because focus, an adequate amount of focus and our ability to hold on to it, all right, when we need it most, creates a diligence in us to stay on track. On track with what? With what is most important to us each and every day. If we don't learn to hold on to that focus sufficiently, instead, we'll find ourselves jumping from one thing to another because that bright and shiny thing, or that phone ringing, or that distraction, or that opening the drawer and realizing this is a mess too, and we can't put this, well, you get it, right? We get stuck in the loop. And there's a never-ending list and a number of ways to end up following like, a fly, rather than dig in, hold on to it, focus, and get what's most important today to you done. All right. And when we can't do that, it's all because we don't harness the distractions more effectively. Okay, and other behavioral habits that can also get in the way are, anybody ever experienced this? Agreeing and saying yes, or even maybe, to every intrusive request that you receive from whoever, however, all right, instead of focusing on, first and foremost, not exclusively, but first and foremost, what we want to create for ourselves, for our life. So in the books, and I just want to remind you of them, again, with the caveat that these are not mental health books. These are process books. So it can feel a little 1, 2, 3, here are the steps, all right? But there is good information, all right? Good information in it. It is not, it's more a step-by-step as opposed to anything that factors in the struggle that most of the people who come to my podcast are living with. And that is to make a plan, follow a plan, and not be so overwhelmed that they feel like they're trying to walk through mud up to their hips. This is the other one. Okay, we've talked about, and time. So focus is what we're talking about now. Last topic today. And time, we've come, where are you, camera? There we go. Okay. So he's probably in the library. So try that first, because we all know that if you love books or self-help books, they can become a tyranny. All right. So you don't have to get more books. You can get the information, all right, in fact, one of the thoughts I had with some of the books that I get for the podcast, just to kind of, spruce up thoughts, is that we should have a membership. And so I pay to send the book to the first person, and then the second person gets the book if they pay for the postage, and the third, fourth, and 39th person get it, and we just keep passing it around. If anybody thinks that's a good idea, we could set that up. All right, so the first type of focus, because it's not all the same. Focus is not all the same. It's one word, but different types. So the first is short term, all right, which is also known by the term concentration. How many people here have difficulty concentrating? Thumbs up. I have a screen full of thumbs up here. Okay. And the second type of focus is transitional. That's also known as planning or forming a routine. You see where there's movement there's a process that has movement in transitional focus. That's the second type. And the third type is long-term focus. And that is the ability to create, formulate, and hold on to a unified vision of what you're aiming for. All right, because if the vision keeps changing, or it's sort of like the flavor of the day, back to, all right, that's where that's going to lead. So the third type is long-term focus, all right? All three types of focus are interconnected. One is sort of stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 in the success process. So short-term focus is your ability to focus on the task at hand. All right, what is right in front of you today or in this moment of time? That's your short-term focus. How many people have difficulty with focusing on what is right in front of them? Okay, surprising number of thumbs up. Okay, all right, and being able to focus on that without being distracted by what else is happening around you. All right, how many people have learned how to create that bubble around themselves so that whatever is out there beyond what I need to deal with right now, I can keep at bay and say to myself, I'll get to you when it's your turn. I'll get to you when it's your turn. I find personally having a little bit of a mantra to yourself is not now, not now, not now, not now. I'm Irish. What can I tell you? We talk back to things. And I come from a long line of Irish women who talked back to things. But you know what? It adds an element of power to our focus because we now have two systems working. This right in front of me. This is what I'm working on. This is what I'm working on. All right. So try it. I would not suggest you do it on a bus, all right, because you'll end up in one of those self-hugging jackets. But it does work. Okay, so all of those distractions, know this, all right, they're competing with each other. Why? Because they all want to demand your attention. And they don't mind all those things that are happening out there. They don't mind interrupting your ability to concentrate. And you can't accomplish anything, if you don't do it one at a time. And there is no perfect order. Don't get hung up on which is the most important. Which right now will give you the most. And that may change depending on what the long-term vision is. And context, all right? You may wake up and find that today brings a different context, a different priority need. It's okay then to slightly change the focus. And unless you've got, what do we say, ephemeral bleed and projectile vomiting happening, not a complete change of focus, just an adaptation for whatever the context of the day is, whatever challenge, additional challenge you may have been sent, all right? Because if we can focus, it will, I really want you to experience that bubble that you can create for yourself, because it will create a mental flow that leads you to more personally productive ends, which is really what you're looking for, isn't it? Isn't that what you're looking for? You've got it in you. All you've got to do is start going, nah, 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 no, 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 this. You're next. You're next. So when you walk around and you see all the clutter, all right, no guilt. I want you to look at it and say, I'm doing this now. I have a plan for you. I'm getting to you. All right. And then go back to what the priority is. Finish what you start. There is no just for now. Okay, just for now. There is no just for now. Put it down. Why? Because that is the same thing as making a promise that you can't keep. All right, that's not the path to focus or productive ends. So if we work on our short-term focus, that's why I don't say 15 minutes with the timer for no reason, because anybody can do anything for 15 minutes. All right, that's how you start to develop your short-term focus. No interruptions. All right. It can be improved through establishing and committing to doable routines. And I define doable, whatever is the priority today, 15 minutes at a time with a timer. Why do I want you to use some form of timer? Because I want you to have the physical and auditory experience of how long a very short period of time is. How many people here underestimate greatly how long something is actually going to take? It's because you haven't developed a good sense of time and how much time certain chunks are. Can you tell me that if you close your eyes and you picture whatever area you're sitting in front of right now that needs remediation, close your eyes and have a look, and you know what that looks like. I want you just to guess in your mind about how long it would take. How much could you get done in 15 minutes if you worked from one point to the longest point out that you could accomplish in 15 minutes? Can you do that? So how do you estimate? How do you estimate how long it's going to take to finish? Now, after we finish here today, I want you to do a little bit of homework. I want you to actually picture that. Okay, if I start there, I could probably get to here in 15 minutes. Okay, I want you to imagine that. Then I want you to try it, and I want you to find out how long it actually did take. And then I want you to go back to this podcast, and I want you to look up, how do I strengthen my short-term focus? All right, because the other thing that happens, if you can get yourself in that bubble of focus, all right, and you can with enough diligence, it gives you almost an experience of time stretching. Why? Because you're not being distracted. You're not having to fight to stay focused on what you're doing. It's like it gives you more time, and it's so much easier, all right, to plan realistically. And in order to do that, you need to repeat that experience enough times that it's in you. It's in you, all right? So remember this too. I'm going to repeat myself. That whatever we do the most, good, bad, or indifferent, is what we habituate. And what we habituate, that's not just a word to throw around. What we habituate is directly connected. It is a linear experience with us being able to create our day-to-day strengths, our day-to-day routines and habits in order to determine what track we want to be on, stay on that track, and complete whatever is on that track to be completed. Now, the second type of focus is transitional focus. It's different. It has a different skill set to it. Transitional focus is what we use to make up our daily routines and to be able to follow through on them more easily over a longer period of time. All right. Why do we need this? Because we need to learn, in order to accomplish anything, how to sequence tasks, not to get distracted by what pops up or what intrudes, and that becomes the next thing. You never get anything finished that way. All right, you look around, you have worked harder than if you just set that timer for 15 minutes and work diligently on one thing for 15 minutes. You get no feedback of success. Who in their right mind would get up the next day and say, back at it? It's not going to happen. You need to have the experience of success and that you have fulfilled what you set out to do, no matter how small. Remember, all of those small completions, they are back to back with one another. And they are all part of the bigger picture that you most want to accomplish in your life as far as the goals. All right. They sequence with one another to completion. All right. So that sequencing of tasks is more effective, short term, to what I just said, while doing what we have to do, all right, in sequencing, moves us from one task to the other with what is behind us completed. If we invest, and it is an investment, all right, it is an investment. If we invest in working deliberately, 15 minutes a day, okay, on our ability to focus, no matter what you're trying to accomplish as far as cleaning up, at the same time, would it hurt you to develop a skill which then goes on to be one of your strengths? It's through habituating, repeating, practicing, repeating, making yourself diligently persevere through 15 minutes. And then later on, when you get really good at that, I've known people who work up to 45 minutes, but don't start there because you'll never go back. All right, don't start there. Don't say, you know what, today's the day I clean that whole room. It'll be the last room. Even if you accomplish it, it'll be the last time you ever go back to it. In more than 20 years, I have never met anybody who, in starting out and kind of getting their sea legs, could do that and repeat. It is what you can do. Repeat. That's going to get you to completion. All right. So don't short circuit yourself. It's far less likely that you'll end up, if you work in little segments trying to strengthen that ability to focus, your routines, all right, even when you don't want to. If you can do that, it's far less likely that you will end up unintentionally wasting times by allowing yourself to be distracted. And we're not talking about frivolous things. We're talking about things that are true, they're legitimately present, and they are just looming there waiting to be done and distract us away from what we're in the middle of. Long-term focus also gives us perspective. Now, perspective for many of you may take the form of, that is not a half-hour job. All right. I am not up to that today. That I will schedule for a day when I'm feeling better. I don't have the aches and pains that many of you tell me about. And I've engaged in a little bit of good self-care to kind of boost my energy level. All right. The long-term focus will give you the big picture of what you need to focus on every day. All right. That routine. All right. And that's the only way to get to where you want to be. So short term, transitional, and long-term focus. They're all connected like cars in a train. All right. We can't really envision where we want to end up without clarity. And clarity, that clarity is about staying on track. All right. All right. It doesn't have to be rigid, but we need to have a big picture. Right. And we need adequate focus to do it. And focus is like a workout. You know, when you take the barbells or the handbells or whatever they're called, and, you know, you strengthen up the biceps and the triceps, it's the same thing for focus. It takes practice. It takes a workout, all right, before you can claim it as a skill first and then a strength. When you can count on it, you've made it into a strength. The clearer the vision also, the easier it's going to be to create what you want to create. You're actually making it easier. It will not be as difficult after you get in your own flow, all right, with enough focus, not perfect focus. That effective plan is there for the accomplishing. You can realize it. It can take you where you want to be, but you have to do the workout. So focus and productivity. All right, that's the next skill. At the risk of belaboring the point, there is a linear relationship between our ability to focus and what we will end up actually accomplishing. All right, though it will only be through persevering and productivity. That's not where you're going to start, but that is a skill and a strength that I want you to really do your best to commit to. All right. All of that will determine whether or not each and every one of us achieve our goals. Success involves mastering each one of those three types of focus: short term, transitional, longer term. All right. Now, Thibaut Meurice also outlines 5 levels of productivity. That's a good, many people want to measure, how well am I doing? Okay. Frankly, only 3 of which I frankly agree with, all right, as they relate to clutter or hoarding. So on to the next 3 levels of productivity. All right. And I want you to be asking yourself, where am I right now? And how solidly am I there? All right. How solidly do I have a hold on this level of productivity? Accomplishment is another word. The first is procrastinating. All right. So in this non-productive state where we can remain inactive for all or any of a bunch of reasons, more information on procrastination. If you need more information, go back to the podcasts we did on it. Get yourself a copy. It is my Bible. All right. The book Procrastination and How You Can Stop Now by Jane Burka and Lenora Ewan. All right. Both Dr. Burka and Dr. Ewan talk about procrastination being about interrupters. And I want you to think of that. These are not insurmountable personal experiences. These are sent as interrupters, all right? They arise, they pop up as interrupters, fears. Again, back to Jane Burke and Lenora Ewan and their book. What kind of fears? Do you remember? Obviously, fear of failure. Nobody wants to sign up if they think they're going to fail. All right. Ironically, fear of success, for what that can mean. Another big one, oh boy, is this bigger than most people will admit or even realize: fear of being controlled. And these fears, they distract away from the clarity we need. They are sitting there like little sores. All right. You know, you shift or you're doing some kind of physical activity and you get a little wince of pain. That's what these are. They're just sitting there. All right. I want you to, if you are living with any of these or think you might be, do yourself a favor and get a copy of Burka and Ewan's book Procrastination. And I strongly advise you get the written, the paperback version of it, because I find the voice, I've been told, and I do find as well, the voice on the audiobook a little irritating, and it's hard to focus. I've been told that by about 6 people. So get yourself the hard copy book in paperback. It'll be the best purchase you ever made. Okay. Lack of clarity, that not being able to keep your eye on the ball at all, even long term. You can't hit a target if you don't know where the target is or what it looks like. You need clarity. All right. Lack of clarity leaves us unsure about what we're doing now, 10 minutes from now, 2 minutes after that. There is no logical continuity that we have in our mind that we know. We know how to put into action. And it's not a big plan. It's like putting one foot in front of the other is what I'm talking about. And we need to be able to do that to make progress on the goals, all right, that will leave us feeling like we are actually headed somewhere we want to be, rather than stuck and overwhelmed. How many people here today either are feeling overwhelmed or have had a pretty healthy dose of being overwhelmed at some point? I think every hand just went up. All right. I know I'm singing to the choir, but please give yourself the ability, baby step by baby step by baby step. All right. So without a clear vision, we'll find that our motivation and our focus is missing in action, frankly. All right. So get a firm grip on it and pull it back into line. We will also use up the energy we have. How many people here have energy to waste? No hands up. Oh, 2 hands up. Nora and Shoshana, you've got energy to waste? Oh, the hands just went down. Okay. There was a misunderstanding on that one. Okay. I don't know many people who have energy to waste. All right. And when we don't have the energy to work on those right in front of us specific tasks in the moment when they're needed, the result is we habituate putting things off. Anybody ever experienced that? And the more we do it, the easier it gets. All together now. Why is that? Because where's the H word? Habituate. Whatever we do the most, we habituate. When we habituate, we increase the likelihood that that is where we're going to go to first. Do you want to climb a mountain every time you want to get started? Okay. Do you? Then watch the little decisions you give into, because you are building a mountain every time you habituate something that isn't leading you. And we're not talking big things here. 20 times a day, I swear, I say to myself, Elaine, I say 2 things. You want to earn the right to talk about this to other people and coach them, then you need to do it. That's number 1. You got to walk the talk. Whether you hoard or not, you got to walk the talk. And the other thing I say to myself easily 20 times a day is, Elaine, just do it now. It never gets easier. Just do it now. But I've worked hard at as much as possible in my physical environment. I've tried to figure out a logic where whatever that area is used for, really, really, really close, like within 5 to 6, 7 steps at the most. And I don't hoard, so I'd make it 4 or 5 steps if you do clutter, okay? I try to keep the tools and the things stored where they will be used, because I'm not Superwoman. All right. Lots of times I don't want to hang up my clothes. All right. But I never, ever, ever allow them to be on the floor. All right. Unless they're going to the laundry and they're in front of the machine, nothing on the floor. Why? Because that becomes an invisible area. It's amazing how seductive that is. When you go to take them off, what does gravity do? It naturally pulls them down. So I never allow myself to do that. And I have a rule for myself. You could work some version of this for yourself. Whatever it is you're putting down, all right, give yourself a reasonable deadline. Now, for me, it's 48 hours, all right? If I haven't put something away right away, I've got 48 hours to do it. And I have to put it in an area that I know is my drop zone, all right, which is an area in different rooms where it's not in the way, it's not an eyesore, and I know that is where I will come back to finalize whatever I didn't have time to do or I just didn't want to do in the moment. So you give yourself a deadline, but it's a meaningful deadline. All right. I start to get the heebie-jeebies about probably 36 hours later when I'm thinking, yeah, did you put that away? No, you better do it then. You got to do it. You got to do it. You got to do what you say you're going to do. Okay. All right. So a compelling need for a search for potential sources of best quality information is also good. Remember, we talked about what increases productivity. It's first of all, that action, that activity is important enough, right? It's got to be important enough. Otherwise, why would we make it a priority? Why would we give it any part of today? It's got to be important enough that we do it. All right. And the second thing is, I need to feel competent. You need to feel competent, like you know how to do that and you have enough resources. Well, part of your resources when you don't know what to do is to go to a source of really good quality information. So if you're trying to figure out what to do first in your environment, go back to one of the podcasts, all right, and listen to it. Listen to it while you're working on it, okay? And it's probably, if you're kind of dithering around in your head, that you're confused and you're overwhelmed, that happens. Don't blame yourself. Get best quality information and then run a little experiment. Did that work better than the alternative? And until you come up with a better plan, which you may well do, all right, you've got it in you to succeed or you wouldn't be here. All right. You've got it in you to succeed at whatever you've got your eye on as a goal, or you would not be here. Then get a little help with good quality information. Okay. So fear of moving forward, sometimes out of a fear of doing an adequate job. Anybody gets stuck on if it's worth doing, you have to do it right. Okay. We got a lot of hands there. Whoa. Okay, so how about we substitute if it's worth doing good enough? Is there anybody here who really just cannot get their head around that? It's like, oh, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. Oh, I don't know. I'd be constantly irritated because it wasn't right. Okay, if that's true, I want you to get, I'm repeating myself. How many times? That Jane Burke and Lenora Ewan's book, Procrastination, because perfectionism, that's got an element of perfectionism to it. In fact, it's got a healthy dose of perfectionism in it. All right, that is hand in glove. It's the recipe for procrastination. So if you don't want to be a perpetual procrastinator, you have to come to terms with some things, something, you know what? If somebody's doing brain surgery, I want them to be precise. All right. If somebody's doing something else like knitting or da 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 da, I don't do that. So I'm just using it as an example. Well, okay, maybe precision is really important. Yeah, you know what? Maybe if you're sewing, it would be great if all the seams lined up. All right, that would be precise. But most of the things in our life, I have news for you. Good enough is good enough. Everything doesn't have to be precisely just the way it should be. Good enough is good enough. Later on, once you've got everything pretty much done, or certainly solved, you can go back and put a shine on them. You can go back and do a little adjustment. But at that point, you're not calling yourself a clutterer or a hoarder. All right. Could you do things to whatever level gives you comfort and satisfaction by steps? So we start out with good enough. Then we get to, do I have any spare time? Do I have any spare energy? Maybe take some of the more important things to a different level. And then a different level. All right, until you go, boy, I'm going to put my name on that. All right. Can you do it that way? Be adaptable. All right. Okay. How about fear of beginning a new project because we don't know where to start? Like there's a right spot to start, particularly when it comes to decluttering. I think if you want visual and emotional feedback and a record of progress for the effort you've made, I personally think starting in one corner and everything you put your hand on, working around, all right, through that area, then you go back and you look at it and you go, okay, I may have a lot of other things to do, but I did that. All right. And that can be a huge motivator and validator. We need validation. The more work there is to do, people, the more we need to be able to give ourselves a pat on the back for what we did do. All right. So it doesn't matter. This area that you worked on is not less important nor less worthy because there's more to do. All right. That's not a valid way to talk to yourself. Okay. So try to choose options that don't leave a minimum of energy in the tank to get started. All right. The failure to concentrate will suck away the energy and the focus to plan routines. If you don't have routines, it's going to be an extremely steep incline for long-term focus, vision, and productivity. All right. Okay. So for solutions, spend the time necessary to discover the reasons why, to whatever extent you do, you procrastinate. All right. That is the first step to improving your focus. As you need, refresh your vision. Vision boarding is a really good way. It's amazing how the end product turns out a pretty close facsimile when you've put the effort into vision boarding. All right. And that vision improves your plan too, because it's like a mental checklist. It supports putting things in place like routines to help you complete, to motivate you to go that extra few steps to complete essential tasks. Catch and stop yourself when you find that you're working on the wrong thing. Say, whoops, nope, back to the plan. Whoops, nope, back to the plan. All right. An indicator of this is when the tasks are like little demons. All right. Those distractors are like little demons, little seductive demons. And just know that when you fall for that, that isn't likely to be an unproductive task that contributes very little to the overall direction you want to go in for the success you're looking for. Figure out simple ways to identify when you're distracted. What do you do? How do you identify that you've been distracted or you are distracted before you're knee deep in it? How do you do that? Do you have a way? What if you did a check-in with yourself every 15 minutes? What if you did a check-in with yourself? Where am I? Am I okay? I'm on task. All right. Because that way you can correct the path and get back to habituating the routines and the options that are going to give you the success that you're working for. And all of these, okay, no, distractions are not going to improve your environment, your life, your self-respect, and your ability to do with your environment whatever it is you're looking forward to doing with it, having people over. Just it when you walk in, not think, oh, I'll work. So you have to put on blinders. Whatever that positive is that you're looking for, don't let the distractions or the lack of putting enough effort into increasing and strengthening your focus detract from what you need. All right. Make a step-by-step detailed. Now, don't make that your life's work, but a step-by-step detailed action plan to where you want to be. How many people actually have thought about what steps they need? Say it's a kitchen, say it's a bedroom. Have you actually written out the steps that you need to take, and have you posted that on the back of the door? Any area you're working on, okay, try doing that. Just tape it to the back of the door. And when it's time to redo the cleanup of the bedroom, the cleanup of the kitchen, the cleanup of whatever, the front halls are a biggie. All right. What you got a cupboard door? Open the cupboard door and there are the steps. Are the shoes put away? Are the boots put away? Are the coats hung up? Are the blah, 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 blah. Okay. It's simple. This is not difficult, but it's a cue. And the more you can cue yourself to check in, chances are the less you're going to be off the path. And it's difficult. Why do you really want to use your energy to continually trying to climb back on the path? Okay. Isn't it better to give yourself cues along the way that say, am I still on the path? You come in and you see whatever has been put down, groceries, all right? The perishables, you ever notice you can get the perishables put away so they don't go bad, all right? But the canned food and the other stuff, that's still there. Because you're not planning to eat that, all right? And you know what? If you're a super buyer and they get left at the door, I'm going to ask you to do this proactively. Shop from a list. And I don't care what sales are. All right. If when you get home, you don't have the energy to put it away, those sales just became a tripping hazard. They just became something that when you look at it, costs you your self-confidence and your self-respect. Not worth it. There is no sale that's worth it. So buy in numbers that you have the energy to finish the action. Think proactively. There will be another sale. All right, there will be another sale. All right, okay. Don't promise away tomorrow before it comes, and try your level best not to let yesterday's leftover work become today's obligation. Today belongs to today. Yesterday, start what you can finish and finish what you start. So think long and hard before you start something if you can't finish it. All right? It's really discouraging when you wake up and you think, oh, great, not only do I have to do what I have to do today, but now I've got to do that as well. Okay. Work on the right things. All right. And the right things are what's in front of you that give you the most meaning today. How many people here have a macro level, a high level list of the priority areas to work on? We're going to go to, oh, you do. There are some hands up. Good. Okay. So, somebody in the waiting room. So, can I give you a bit of homework? Okay. I want you to take out a paper and pen, and I want you to make a list of the rooms in your home. What is the priority? What is the most important to the least important? All right, that you resolve. And then on the most important, before the end of the week. So you need to give yourself a reminder because you're not going to remember it. All right, you've got to figure out some way to give yourself a reminder. I want you to have sat down and written out. Now, we're not talking in minutia, like put away this fork, put away that fork, put away the next fork. Okay, it's not that level of list. I want you to make a high level list of the most important, highest priority area. What would the steps be in resolving that area? And if you can, all right, please make the priorities as close to whatever might be interrupting the safety corridor as far as mobility and fire safety. All right. And also what would give you the most satisfaction, that when you are in that room, you're pretty chuffed with yourself. All right. Does it stay that way? No. Every time we inhale and exhale, we're taking on a new project, or we're putting something down, or we're making a mess we have to clean up. That's life. All right. So I'm going to leave you at that. I will see you next week. It will be, I think next week is next week September. Isn't that terrible? I can't tell you whether next week is September or not. Anyway, I think next week is September.
It's not. It's the 31st of August.
Is it? Okay. So,
yeah.
Thank you, Hafsa. Close enough. We may start. I'll do one of two things. I will either handle all of the comments in the chat room, chat box, and open the floor to questions and answers, or we will start the grief and loss. Okay. So you have a wonderful week. Make it the best one you possibly can. And I will see you next Wednesday. Take care, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Can you do it? Yes, you can.